Good day to you. Today I'm going to talk to you about wallowing in the mud. What is the mud? As human beings, the mud was used to create our flesh. We must not wallow in the mud. The mud was used by Jesus to open blind eyes in the Bible. But that doesn't mean that we should wallow in the mud. Do not wallow in the mud. The Spirit of Jesus Christ was mixed with sand to make mud. And the reason is for the dirt to adhere together. Our skin adheres together, our flesh adheres together because it is a mixture of liquid and dirt. If we wallow in the mud, we start to sink. If we wallow in our flesh, we start to sink because the mud has not got a solid ground. So if we don't want to sink, we must not wallow in the mud. Psalm 40 verse 2 says, He lifted me out of the pit of death, out of the mud and filth, and set my feet on solid rock. He steadied my legs. We must set our feet on the solid rock, which is Jesus Christ. We must not remain in the flesh. We must remain in the Spirit, which is Jesus Christ. When we are in the mud, our feet cannot touch the bottom. And we can drown and get swept away. May the Lord save us from the mud, so that we do not drown. May the Lord save us from our flesh and our fleshly mind. We must put on the mind of Christ. We must be born again. We must be born of the Spirit. We must become spirit beings. We must know that we are spirit beings, and as spirit beings, we are far above the mud and the fleshly mind. Psalm 69 verse 14 says, Save me from the mud. Don't let me drown. Let me be saved from those who hate me and from these watery depths. The Bible says in Isaiah chapter 57 verse 20 that the wicked are like the churning sea that cannot keep still. They churn up from their waters, muck and mud. If we find that us or somebody we know has been thrown in the mud, thrown into fleshly things, we must try to get them out. In the book of Jeremiah chapter 38 verse 6, the Bible says, They seized Jeremiah, threw him into a cistern of the royal prince Malchiah, within the prison quarters and lowered him down by ropes. There was no water in the cistern, only mud, and Jeremiah began to sink in the mud. If we look carefully, every effort was made to take Jeremiah out of the mud. And he was rescued from this muddy cistern. May the Lord rescue us from every mud we've been thrown into. May the Lord bring helper our way that will be able to save us. In Jeremiah chapter 38 verse 22, the Bible says, women left in the palace of the king of Judah will be led out to the offices of the king of Babylon, and they will say, your trusted friends have betrayed you. They have deceived you. Now that your feet are stuck in the mud, they are nowhere to be found. When we follow Babylon, we are stuck in the mud, and our friends might betray us. Let us not listen or follow Babylon. Let us not allow ourselves to be deceived by Egypt, by people that wallow in muddy waters and rivers, and roll in this mud, and thrash about in the rivers, and call themselves a young lion among the nations, but in actual fact, they are a sea monster. This we can find in Ezekiel chapter 32 verse 2. We must not feed or drink muddy water. Instead, as said in Zechariah chapter 10 verse 5, we should hold on to the prophecy of God that says that we will be like warriors trampling through the muddy streets during battle. We will do battle because the Lord is with us, and all the cavalry will be ashamed. So, mud is supposed to be trampled upon. We must trample upon every mud, every fleshly thing, and hold on to the Spirit of God, because it is only the Spirit of God that can be with us in the battle. Remain blessed.